In my last video, I was asking for suggestions on new topics, and you guys gave me some awesome ideas. DRFT Jester suggested that I do a video on movies that foreshadowed future events that actually came to pass. I started looking into this. I found more references to foreshadowed events actually in two TV shows in particular, The Simpsons and Family Guy.
Oh my god, that's amazing! That's the coolest thing ever!
There were so many in The Simpsons that it really deserves a video unto itself.
I am over The Simpsons.
I go back to re-comment to Jester, and Sparky Tuttle, I saw, actually commented and said, well, you know, he should do The Simpsons too, because there's a lot of foreshadowing stuff in there. And I'm like, what?
You can read my thoughts.
Anyway, this is a video about some of the examples of foreshadowing of real events in The Simpsons. This is a really good example. The clip that I'm about to show you is from a Simpsons episode that aired in 1993, and it shows Siegfried and Roy being attacked on stage by a tiger. So, watch.
She loves show business. So much nicer than the savagery of the jungle, yeah?
Hey, tiger, wake up!
Okay, so this actually happened in real life. In 2003, Roy was attacked on stage. I'm not trying to be cold about this, but what do you expect would happen if you're working with tigers all the time? In my opinion, this particular incident was simply a long time coming. Do you guys agree? Perhaps the most well-known example of The Simpsons' seemingly psychic abilities is the claim that they predicted President Trump's presidency. This viral image began to circulate as the ultimate proof. Sources claim the two images to the left were in a Simpsons episode that aired all the way back in 2000. If true, its chilling similarities to the 2015 images on the right just might turn the most ardent skeptic into a believer. There's just one problem. The images on the left actually came from Trumptastic Voyage, which aired in 2015 after the infamous elevator scene had taken place. One of the frustrating things about YouTube is just how much incorrect information keeps on getting regurgitated. There have been quite a few channels that gave that inaccurate information.
You are fake news.
And so it's no wonder why everyone thought that video came out in 2000. But no, it came out in 2015. While this particular example is utterly debunked, it is true that The Simpsons had an episode foreshadowing a Trump presidency 15 years before the fact. This episode was entitled Bart to the Future and first aired in March of 2000. When asked about the eerie coincidence during an interview, Simpsons writer Mike Reiss told Variety that the episode's reference to a Trump presidency was a joke, and that, quote, Trump is just one of those special cases. 16 years ago we were thinking, what's the dumbest thing America could do? And then they did it. The satirical episode also predicted that Trump would leave the country in financial ruin. But if the current state of the economy is any indicator of what the economy will look like when he leaves office, then this prediction will have turned out to be pretty wrong. Whether you love Trump or hate Trump, let's all hope The Simpsons were wrong on this one. Now this one's funny because it's something that I would actually be tempted to do if I knew how to do it. For those of you who don't know, I've always been really big into plants and gardening and whatnot. So there's a Simpsons episode where they make a hypothetical plant that doesn't exist in reality. It's part tobacco, part tomato, and they're calling it the Tomako plant. Well, some dude actually made this hybrid. Tomato and tobacco are actually both in the same family. They're both in the nightshade family, so it seems like it would be pretty simple, but the guy who created the plant was inspired by the show. I mean, he was a big fan of the show. Eggplant is in the nightshade family too, so if you cross tobacco and eggplant, would it be a tobeg plant? Well, if you ever see one, you know who predicted it. In another episode coming from the 90s, Bart is sick and Marge gives him a book called Curious George and the Ebola virus, and somehow people are saying that that was foreshadowing the Ebola outbreak. Now, Ebola is one of the most virulent viruses out there. I mean, we were bound to have an outbreak here in the US at some point. It was just inevitable. Kind of like Siegfried and Roy eventually getting in trouble with tigers, or NASCAR drivers eventually getting in wrecks. I mean, it's just bound to happen. You know, there are so many alleged examples of this on the internet that there's just no way that I could cover it all in one video. Now, I wanted to touch on two others that I'm currently looking into. The claims are, in a 1998 episode, Homer Simpson had produced a decent approximation of a theory related to the Higgs boson God particle.
A huge surprise for fans of The Simpsons. Turns out Homer is a genius. The seemingly dim-witted character actually confirming the so-called Higgs boson God particle 14 years before scientists. Now, the author of a new book called The Simpsons and Their Mathematical Secrets, Dr. Simon Singh, noticed the amazing coincidence in the 1998 episode of the show where Homer can be seen drawing this very complex equation on a chalkboard. Apparently, some of the writers of The Simpsons are actually mathematicians.
Well, I actually found that news clip right after I recorded what you heard me just say, but, you know, I think that could possibly explain it. Could it be that maybe one of the writers for The Simpsons got close to figuring out this God particle thing? If you think about it, I mean, writers of shows, especially comedy shows, do tend to be of much higher intellect than the average person. So, I don't know, it's surprising, but for now I'm decently satisfied with that explanation. Alright, the last one, this image here. So, the story behind it, let's see. A 2001 Simpsons episode, New Kids on the Beach, show clips of a war in an unspecified Middle East country. Some of the U.S. enemies depicted in the show were using a Jeep branded with a flag nobody used at the time it aired, but was used by a Syrian rebel group a decade later. So, that's the flag. It's an interesting claim. If it is true, that's pretty darn fascinating. So, you know, how much of this can we chalk up to coincidence and other factors like, you know, just things that will be inevitable? I don't know. So, if you guys know of any more Simpsons examples that you want me to look into, let me know in the comment section. Hey everyone, Drew here from Mad Cat Mysteries, and I hope you enjoyed the video you just watched. If you did, you can click on the subscribe button below. I'd appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. here's a pretty good example of what we're talking about. The clip that I'm about to show you is from a Simpsons episode that aired in 1993, and it shows Sigmund and Freud. I said Sigmund and Freud.